Darkness? That's the first thing I open my eyes to, at least I think they're open. It's very hard to tell. This empty void around me seems to stretch on forever if I could see it, but I can't even see my own hands. It feels as if I'm falling. I don't know how long it has been like this. The last thing I remember was falling asleep in my bed while watching some videos. And now I'm here. Well, where's here? Last time I checked, my dreams never felt like this, and whenever I was in control it felt different. This doesn't feel like a dream even if I can't feel my own body. There's just something in the back of my head that tells me that it isn't. Then all of a sudden, my peaceful flight is disturbed by a tug on what I can only assume are my legs, since they don't feel like it. I'm trying my best to fight it, but it feels as if whatever it is down there is coiling around my legs, cold and ethereal. Is that a snake? No, it can't be, I say in my head, trying to calm myself down. Whatever form my hands seem to be in can't seem to touch whatever it is down there. It tugs again and I feel my whole body shudder as I can feel how much power was behind that tug. Wherever it's going to pull me, I don't think I will have the power to resist. And as if reading my thoughts, it gives another tug stronger than the others, winding me. Oh no, I feel it not letting me have a break as before, and suddenly my strength gives way as I start to fall. The sensations feel different, and now there seems to be turbulence as my form, whatever it is now, is shaking wildly as I'm descending. A flash of light rushes past me. Wait, was that a star? The tugging has gotten stronger now, and I can no longer put in the effort to resist, as I'm now mental trying to prepare myself for whatever is going to be coming next. More lights, no more stars. What type of dream is this? There are so many lights, so many stars that we are rushing past at such speeds that it's all becoming a blur. My vision is starting to white out as more and more light comes. There's a low crackling hum that I think is electric, but I can't force myself to concentrate as all these sensations are overloading me after being stuck in the dark by myself. Then I slam into something like a truck to a solid wall, feeling so winded as I cough. That's no, wherever I was in the void I remember not actually breathing, not because it's something you don't think about, but I just never did. I'm stuck under something. It's as if I was fighting not to drown like back when I faked being able to swim, but this feels different. Heavier. I struggle against it. I can't breathe, but I feel arms struggling as they force themselves up to frantically trying to remove whatever is stopping me from receiving that precious air. Is that dirt? Did someone bury me? Alive? I redouble my efforts with each new piece of dirt removed, more space freed up. I'm struggling to breathe now, and I can only guess I'm red in the face. I try to open my mouth to scream as dirt comes rushing into my mouth as a warning to me not to do it again. I started digging and punching the dirt in front of me till I feel my right arm punch through to open air. I momentarily freeze as I feel the wind rushing over me before digging fast at the small hole I made. I can already feel the rush of air hitting me, rushing into the hole as I start forcing myself out of the hole. The rest of the dirt crumbles around me, making it easier as I push myself out of the dirt, momentarily standing up before falling to my hands and knees. I cough out some of the dirt that had gotten into my mouth before raising my head to look around. I'm in some kind of forest from what I can see, and I quickly remember one of the many rules I learned from binge watching documentaries. Stay in the same location. It will make it easier to find you. A quick glance at the crumbled hole behind me is all the motivation I need to make sure I get as far away as I can from this location before whoever found me can put me back in there again. Slowly getting up with the assistance of a tree, I look down at myself to make sure that I'm okay. From the looks of everything, my body looks the same, with the same scars everywhere from my younger days as a kid and some in my early teenage years. I'm still me and everything looks okay. I'm still me, so how did they hurt me? Or maybe they used poison, that's why I can't feel anything or head trauma. I say, running my hands all over my head, but everything feels the same. I'm naked is one thing I could tell clearly after another cold breeze hits me. With one last look at the hole I came out of, I started trekking in the opposite direction. Not a moment too soon do I hear the rumble of an engine, a very loud one. I quickly rush towards it before slowing down. What if it's the people that put me here? That stops me in my tracks, before I shake it off. Either way, I had to find out what it was, so I continued my approach slowly. I came upon a small clearing with one of the settling hums of whatever was powering down. I could see what looked to be giant parachutes as I watched closer, and my eyes tracked to the rest of the structure. It was massive. Much larger than any of the capsules I saw on the TV or YouTube back at home. This ship, however, looked familiar, a secret military one. I heard motors turning and then saw the pressure coming from the door. Whoever was inside was coming out. Not wanting to invite trouble, I quickly retreated behind a nearby tree and waited to peer out to see just what would come out from behind that door. The door-like ramp touched the ground, and I could hear murmurs and the sound of one set of footsteps walking out on them before quietening down. "We're back, bitches." I peered around the tree and saw the back of a brunette girl before my eyes moved to the rest of the people inside the capsule, and I froze. Because in front of me were no other than the 100. I was in such a shock state that I didn't realize I had moved out into the open, staring at them with furrowed brows. Octavia was waiting for everyone to come running out. They had all stopped, the cheering all but consumed by this new silence, and their eyes were wide, looking behind her. "Is there something behind me, Octavia?" She heard her name being called, and her arms quickly went down to her sides as she slowly turned to see me walking into the clearing. As soon as she saw me, she took a subconscious step back. All of them did, because they had been told that there were no survivors on the earth. I realized that they are looking at me before I looked down at myself and then back to them. This couldn't be a dream because it all felt too real. The pain your feet had been feeling was all too real. But you pinch yourself and flinch as you feel the pain. You had forgotten how you were in such a winded state before, but now it all comes at you at once as your vision fades and you stumble before blacking out. Clark, who had been busy trying to check on the two boys that had died during the crash, had stood up with Wells next to her, much to her displeasure as she heard the 100 go quiet. "Did something happen already?" she said as she shoved her way to the front, momentarily glimpsing Bellamy's face before turning her eyes to that direction. "A person. A human. But no one is supposed to be still alive. It's a man. He looks hurt, but I don't see any injuries." But before she could finish that training of thought, he collapses on his side. For a moment no one does anything other than just stare at his form in front of them. She takes a step forward and feels Bellamy's arm on her shoulder, stopping her. "Easy there, princess," he said, pushing her back into Wells as he starts proceeding down the ramp. "You okay there?" "Oh." She just nods absently as she continues staring at his form on the ground. "He knew my name," she says. "How the hell did someone on the ground know my name? Even people on the dropship don't know my name." He rubs her back. "Don't worry, we will find out," he says before he is elbow checked by none other than the princess and her prince rushing to check on this human. Clark immediately turns him over, opening his eyes to check that they still follow, but the pulse she can feel is strong, and after a few more checks she sits on her knees with Wells looking over her shoulder. "He should be fine. Looks like some serious levels of exhaustion. Used to this with some of the workers when oxygen was rationed sometimes." Wells just nods, looking over your entire form. "Where the hell are his clothes?" Clark just gives another shrug before she feels Bellamy coming up to them. "We need to secure him right now." Clark is shocked because literally the first person they meet on the ground after such a long time, and the first thing Bellamy wants to do is tie him up. "No," she flat out states, "this is the first person we see on the ground and our first greeting is hostile." He could be a threat or we might be making enemies before anything actually happens. Bellamy huffs and looks over to some of the 100 that had slowly come down the ramp to look at the body. He says, pointing to the largest guy he could find. Get some zip ties and tie him up. The guy looks stunned for a second before Bellamy gives him and the ones around him a glare. Have you thought he might be dangerous? That's why he looks like this. I'm trying to keep us safe and Princess here wants to let him loose. That seemed to drive them into gear as one rushed back inside before rushing out with what looked like zip ties and electrical wire. Clark tries to stand her ground with Wells backing her up behind her. As much as she hated him, she could tell he was the only other person seeing reason right now. Move it, Princess, Bellamy says, moving closer to Clark and causing Wells to take his own warning step forward. The crowd backing Bellamy seems to have only grown and Clark, not wanting to start a conflict, backs off, pushing Wells back as they step out of the way. Bellamy's goons quickly run and tie up the stranger before looking back at him again. So where do we put him? He quickly scanned around. Inside the dropship seems the most secure. The boys lugged his form inside with the 100 clearing a path. As soon enough the stranger was secured to the strongest support pillar in the dropship. Keep an eye on him, Bellamy said, ordering the nearest boy next to him and the big one he saw in front of him before moving outside. Everything felt groggy as I start to wake. He's waking up, I heard from the side. Why are they so goddamn loud? I groaned before slowly opening my eyes. My vision's still blurred but I can tell I'm somewhere dark. I start to panicking, thinking whoever put me in that grave must has caught me again, and my body being bound isn't helping sate those worries. Relax, relax, we aren't going to hurt you. I hear from a form in front of me. I can see blondish looking hair and a face. It takes a few more seconds before it all starts to focus with my threshing easing. The face comes into focus and before I could stop myself I just blurt out, Clark. I see her hand flinch momentarily before she checks my pulse and my binds. I look around at the people with me. There's Bellamy, Octavia, Clark, Wells, Murphy, Jasper, Monty, Hopper, Imari, I think, and a few others in the back I don't recognize. Who are you? Is the first question thrown my way, but it unexpectedly came from Octavia. There's no point in hiding who I am, and the quicker we get this solved the better for everyone. My name is Brandon. They seem more surprised by that you can speak English, Clark asks, and I just reply to her with a deadpan stare like seriously. Oh sorry. She quickly apologized and I just let out a deep sigh. It's fine to trust me. I'm as surprised to see you too. That brought another tenseness to the atmosphere. Cut the crap. How did you know Octavia's name? Oh shit, there he goes. I was wondering when Bellamy was going to involve himself. I glanced at her. She backed off slightly. I honestly didn't want her to be scared of me. I didn't want any of them to be. Wait, aren't they supposed to have departed? And Jasper gets speared in the chest and Octavia attacked by that snake-like creature. Have I already changed stuff? I look around again. Can I change more? I felt a kick to my side that winded me, bringing me out of my musing. I said to start talking. Bellamy, you fucking asshole. That stopped him. I gave a small few coughs before calming myself. I looked at Clark, who was glaring at Bellamy. I will tell you, but him, Murphy and his goons need to leave first. No, I'm not leaving, Bellamy shouts. I already knew you were going to say that, but even so it's still annoying. He was about to stomp towards me before Clark stepped in front of him. Bellamy, leave, princess, move out the way, he growled, and I could see Wells readying himself. This was about to spill over into something else entirely if I didn't say anything. Two truths and a lie, I guess. Bellamy, why don't you tell Octavia why you really came? That seemed to stop the shouting match between him and Clark. What do you mean? Start speaking some sense before I knock it into you. I mean, aren't they looking for you on the Ark right now? After what you did to Jaha? He went quiet and so did everyone as they turned to look at him. What do you mean? Wells asked, slowly taking a step forward towards Bellamy. He may have hated his father, but that was still his dad, and any kid would still get mad if someone hurt their parent. Clark got in front of him. Relax, Wells, relax. He looked at me and I could feel the rage rolling off him. What did he do? Bellamy was keeping quiet, but he was standing stiffly. This was worrying. I knew he had a gun, but I didn't know if he still had it on him or if it was hidden somewhere. They need to leave first. Bellamy scowled at me before turning and quickly leaving. I think I just made myself an enemy. Murphy and the others soon left, but Octavia didn't. She just looked at me as if asking to stay, and I just replied with a small nod. Once the drop shit was clear, and I made sure by making Wells check upstairs and any cabinets. Call me paranoid, but I was literally about to break their world, close the door and untie me. Clark moved fast, working on my binds as Octavia shut the door, much to the protest of everyone outside, including Bellamy, who looked just about ready to jump into the ship. I noticed the blanket covering me and wrapped it around myself, taking in all the faces of those that stood behind me. I'm from a different dimension. A higher dimension. Everyone just stared at me. Are you kidding me? Jasper just said, not looking amused. Yes, Jasper, I am. That seemed to shut him up. I know something about your world, but not too much, since I never really paid attention to it. What I really wanted to say was I mostly know your world from fanfiction and occasionally dropping into your show to watch it and get the main things happening, but I had a feeling that wouldn't go over well. I know certain things about your world. I know people in it and what's going to happen in the future to a point. You can't expect us to just believe you. We need proof. Good, at least they weren't dismissing me as loony and actually paying attention, but given the circumstances, what other choice do they have? And I can see Clark looking at me closely, assessing me. How did you end up here then? Wells asked me. I don't know. I think I think I died. That caused me to have a faraway look as I remembered blasting past stars till I eventually came out of the ground scared. Hey, it's okay, Octavia said, coming towards me and lifting my head up. I took a few calming breaths before looking up at them. I don't know enough about your world because I never paid attention to it much, but I can help you change things since this looks like it's my world too now. The small smile I had seemed to diffuse most of the tension. So what was that about Bellamy? Octavia asked. I knew that was coming. He has a gun on him right now. That put everyone on edge, so I am not going to say anything more, otherwise it might get dangerous. But Wells started protesting and a look from Clark shut him up. That doesn't matter right now. We need to find a way to contact the Arkansas. What? Why would we do that? Octavia asked. Because people will die if we don't, and you have to keep those bracelets on you. Why should we keep these on? Jasper asked from the back of the room. They let the Ark know that you're alive. They didn't just send you here to die. There was a reason. And I turned to Clark, locking my eyes with her. You should tell them. I could see the gears turning in her head before she got it and looked at me for confirmation, and I replied with a small nod. Clark got up and turned around to her friends. The Ark is dying. It went dead still. What do you mean the Ark is dying? Octavia asked. I was really surprised by this version of her. I had wanted to see more of it before she got hardened by all the bullshit that happened. She seemed so sweet. My dad found out about it. She started explaining the whole reason and why her father was floated and how it led to her being jailed as well. So you mean my dad planned to float you to make sure no one found out? The glare from Clark was enough of an answer. You helped him do it to my dad? Why are you so surprised that I was next? And there's another thing I am about to get involved in. Well, actually, Wells glares at me as if reading my mind, which doesn't go unnoticed by Clark. What do you mean actually, Brandon? Damn, she used my name. That means she is deadly serious. I will tell you later after everything, I promise. No, I should not do that. She needs to help protect him, otherwise he will die. You know what, I might be making things harder, but fine. Wells is not the reason your father died. Wells tries to rush me but Clark pushes him aside. So what happened then? Why the hell did my dad die? I already feel like I am walking on eggshells. Might as well dig my own grave. Your mom told the council, but she didn't mean for him to die. She had just planned on getting them to keep him quiet. She never expected this. I could almost see the glass shatter in her eyes before she looked at me and stormed off upstairs with Wells following behind, knocking into my shoulder. Everyone was quiet for a while. So you guys got any extra clothes? I knew that was not the thing they wanted to hear at the time, but I just wanted to move from this quickly. I was uncomfortable too. Octavia got out of her shock quickly. Yeah, we have something in the back as part of the extra supplies, she said before moving to the cabinets. Well, this was a lot to take, Mondi said, trying to drain the tenseness. I gave him a small thankful smile. Lord knows I needed it. Here you go, Octavia said as she came with a set of clothes. They looked a bit big and baggy, but I preferred them over tight-fitting. I wasn't small by any standards, as I stood at 511 with an athletic build thanks to basketball and MMA lessons after school. The strip mall karate lessons were my mom's idea. I wonder how she is doing right now. She must be so sad. My siblings too and my dad, we never got along as I got older, but I know we still loved each other. It hits me like a brick and I quickly shake it off, hoping no one noticed it. I could cry about it later, not right now. I had to make sure as many people made it as possible in this world, even those in the mountain, because most of them were innocent. I quickly put on my clothes and they turned away. Being modest was not something I was going to even bother doing. They had carried me inside here naked after all. I'm done. They all turned around. So what now? Octavia asked, stepping next to me. Well, the rest I had to tell everyone here, includes those outside as well, but Jasper and Monty, I need you to check if we still have communications with the Arkansas. Why wouldn't we? Jasper asked. If Bellamy had his way, we won't be talking to the Ark until it comes crashing down and hundreds dying. I felt a shove from my side coming from Octavia. My brother would never do that. He can, and he did before. I saw him do it. That's just one of many. Oh shit, shut your mouth, you're saying too much. What do you mean one of many? Octavia said, turning me to face her. I just didn't reply. Let's get outside. Jasper gave me a nod before moving and opening the hatch door. It took an awfully long time to go down before it settled on the ground and everyone turned to face us, or more specifically me, as I stepped out. Fuck my nerves. I walked out as a large circle started forming around me as they surrounded me, only parting as Bellamy came stalking towards me, his expression anything but friendly. You're done. It wasn't a question, more of a statement. I looked around at the faces of all the people around me, some kids, some older. I could see some that looked very young. Even the girl that killed Wells was standing there. I decided to leave it for now, but I knew she had to be dealt with. I just hope. Hey everyone, the murmuring around me died down as then everyone looked at me. Well, here goes nothing. I'm sure you're all really worried since you landed here. I got a few hums in agreement, but also some dismissal, which was expected. Believe me when I say I am not your enemy. The Ark is not your enemy. But there are people on the ground as well. That seemed to spur a lot more murmurs, everyone trying to say anything. Shut up. Everyone went slip as we turned back to the dropship ramp to see Clark standing there. She looked like she had been crying. I wanted to comfort her, at least that, but she just nodded my way for me to continue. There are people on the ground, millions of them, that survived the bombs that call this place their home, and some from the old world that still live. I was waiting for the gasp, but it never came as people were laser focused on my words. There are many cultures and tribes of them, and your decisions that you make right now will decide whether they embrace you or slaughter you all. I made sure to punctuate that as much as I can to get the message across that I was serious. Is that a threat? Fucking Bellamy, no it's not, it's a warning. You're the aliens to this world. The invaders. So tread lightly because I can already tell you that they're watching you. I looked around the forest line as if to get my message across, but also to look to see if I could see Lincoln, but even I knew he came later. I could recognize some faces in the crowd but not the names, but I could see the fear in their eyes. I'm scared too. I know how it feels, but we can do our best if we work together and don't create anger from the world we live in now. Bellamy just huffed, turning away. And Bellamy, I said as he stopped in his tracks, I would appreciate it if you didn't sabotage the dropship communications. He turned slowly, almost making a motion to reach for his gun. I could feel my nerves tighten. There was too much distance between me and him. I couldn't get to him before he decided to shoot me, but his hand was held by Octavia, who just looked at him dead in the eye, but he just broke off her grip and turned around to the gathered crowd. You all want the Ark controlling you again after they send us here to die. What do you think they will do if they come down here, huh? They will just put you back in their cages. I could see the doubt building on their faces. Everything inside me was shouting at me to just leave them and see how far I could go alone, even though I knew how dangerous this world was. But at least alone I had all the cards in my hand. But I had to at least try. Listen to me when I say this, I said, my voice getting low, because I think they really needed a reality check because they didn't truly understand what they were getting into. They will kill and torture every single one of you. If you think you're special, you're not, because you'll just be another body. I didn't want to show all my cards, but I at least needed for them to understand, even if I was going to lace the truth with some lies. Nothing motivates humans more than fear. So I locked eyes with Octavia, then Clark and the others. I saw them kill you. Most of you die within a few months. I don't even remember how many make it to a year. They were now looking closely at me. And why are we supposed to trust you? A heckler said at the back of the group. I didn't even bother looking for her, because I am the only one on this goddamn planet trying to keep you alive. I shouted. They were starting to get on my nerves now, and the voice in my head telling me to leave was getting louder and louder. You know what? Fuck you. I don't need to help you. I turned around, headed straight for the forest line. I knew all the dangers in there, but it was a lot better than being stuck with a bunch of idiots that would end up getting me killed. Taking my chance with the grounders seemed like a better idea. I knew they were already headed this way. I just had to wait for them to get here. Brendan, wait. I heard what sounds like Clark and Octavia running toward me before grabbing my hand and forcing me to a stop. I didn't turn around because I didn't want their looks guilt-tripping me into staying here. I was already alone in this strange world, and facing its monsters in those forests seemed a whole lot less scary than letting my thoughts of never seeing my friends and family again drown me. I felt a hand on my shoulder trying to turn me around. I resisted, but another hand lay on top of it and they turned me around. I could tell from my blurry vision that I probably had tears in my eyes, but not letting them run. I couldn't do that till I was somewhere safe. I hated being weak in front of people who I barely knew. They always ended up judging me by it, but it wasn't them causing this, it was everything else. I blinked away the unshed tears. There would be a time for that later. What? I asked, looking at Clark and Octavia. We are listening to you, so please don't leave, Clark said, almost begging. Yeah, we kinda need you. After taking a much-needed deep breath, I looked around at the group. You can come with me if you want. We would probably have a much better chance than with them. Clark shook her head. No, we can't just leave them. I forgot how she was at the beginning, much more caring till they took advantage of her. If I left, would the same thing happen again? I looked back at the gathered 100, but none of them would meet my eyes. Figures. They act tough until I'm about to leave. Even Bellamy was looking around, lost. Maybe it was the quiet that had come over his supporters, or maybe him actually thinking about this for once. So Brendan, what do we do? Clark asked, trying to gain my attention with a small reassuring squeeze on my shoulder. Well, you need to gather weapons and food plus put up defenses, but don't attack the grounders. They both nodded at that, but that wasn't the problem. I locked eyes with Bellamy, and he needs to not sabotage the communications. Both Octavia and Clark looked back at him. That might be the problem, Wells' voice said from the ramp. Still haven't forgiven him for shoulder checking me, for no reason, asshole. Why? Because it's already busted. Fuck, did Bellamy already do it? This part was already hazy and I wasn't sure if it broke in the crash or he did it, but it didn't take much for me to find the answer in the way he looked at me. You already fucking did it, didn't you? He broke eye contact, not focusing on me as I was trying to push past Octavia and Clark, who were barely holding me back. Do you know what you just did? Yay, I saved us from the Ark. I was trying to figure out when he did it, but it was probably while I was passed out. 300 people are going to be floated because of you. Some of the other 100 started throwing questions my way. What do you mean floated? Why? Because the Ark is dying, Clark stated, silencing all the murmurs. That's why they sent us here, to see if the planet was survivable so that the Ark could come down, then let them die, was the reply from Bellamy. I knew he was an asshole, but hearing and seeing it in person put in perspective how much of an asshole he is. I wanted to kill him myself. We heard a loud crackle as Bellamy's face twisted to the side and Octavia stood there fuming. What the fuck, Bell? He just looked away, not even paying her slap any mind. I needed to get away from here. I thought I could help them, but it just got worse. Plus I don't want Raven to come down here right now because that's how she loses her leg, right? That put my brain to a stop, and out the corner of my eye, I could see Finn messing with his band. I walked over to him with Clark watching me slowly. Stop that, I stated as he froze and looked up to everyone staring at him. What? It's nothing important. No, it was something important, as I remembered one specific detail, which was that Raven was watching Finn's monitor especially closely. It's important. He looked at me skeptically, but I had a plan forming in my head. Who knows Morse code here? It was silent till I saw the family hand off Monty raise up. I learned about it in history class. I looked at Wells and Jasper. Wells was important to his old man, so best to let him keep Jasper now. Monty and Wells, I need you to figure out how to send out Morse code on these bands. Don't test on yours, test on the others first. Bellamy threw down his band. I thought he was giving it to us till her stomped on it repeatedly and looked around. Will you all let the Ark control you again when we just had our freedom? If he didn't have a gun, I would have knocked his ass out already. If you want to do what Bellamy says, then fine, do it, but those who actually want to live more than a few weeks or months at best should listen to me, because I hate repeating myself. I stated frankly, because I knew you can't save people who don't want to be saved. Everyone was looking around uneasily, but I left it to them to decide. Wells, the map? I asked him. He seemed shocked for a second, then came out with it. He came up to me with it. We have to get a signal to the Ark that we are fine. Right now it's currently blocked, but I know the signal blocker is towards Mount Weather. As much as I wanted to keep Raven out of this, we needed her. I would take responsibility. Finn, break your band. He looked at me as if trying to see the trick. Just do it. So he threw it. Okay, that meant Raven was on the way. I just had to get there before the asshole. Okay, in order to send a code back to the Ark, we have to get somewhere high and we have to disable jammers from the mountain. That all sounded too risky. The last thing we needed was Reapers descending on us. I could hear some bands being thrown in the fire as a small group moved to my side. Well, the rest of them better not bother me when shit hits the fan. Sometime later, hey, what's that on the monitor? They seem to be going in and out. Is it just the interface we are getting from that area? It looks like a code.